We all go a little mad sometimes.
Get you.
You are undoubtedly.
Here's Johnny.
All right, and welcome to the Horror Hour, the place where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. My name is Yutaka. I'm one of the hosts here. Hello. And then I'm joined with my fellow co-host, Ben.
Hello.
And we're here to give a review on Shudder's original series, Behind the Monsters. Behind the Monsters is a 6-part series that goes into behind the scenes of some of our favorite slasher characters. Not only do we get interviews with talent, but we also get interviews of the creative team behind it and also just input from other horror aficionados. And let's first start with the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorites?
I loved looking behind the monster of Michael Myers because I think it's such an interesting story. It's a great story of Hollywood. I think the story of Halloween is the story of it's a great Hollywood story of how they shot this film in 3 weeks. They barely had any money. And it was like the smallest, most bare bones crew you can imagine with just a really great script and idea for a movie that they just wanted to execute well. They didn't want it to make hundreds of millions of dollars and spawn a franchise. They just wanted to make a fun little movie that would scare people. And I think that's just the beauty of a show like this, where you can go back to the original idea and root of these monsters. And for me, Michael Myers is one of the most interesting ones because it preys on our fear that we can project almost anything onto something that wants to hurt us. And with Michael Myers, who's just a blank slate, just white, you can project anything onto that white mask. And that's something they highlight. And it's so true. It's the fear of him that makes not necessarily the action when you see him stabbing someone, but when you see him around. And that's the beauty of the first movie. And I love delving into the rest of the franchise. They got really funny talking about the Thorn trilogy, how they saved themselves with Halloween H2O, had they killed themselves again with Halloween Resurrection, how it was brought back in a way, not very well with the remake, but at least like it made money. And then even if you like his Halloween 2, you can tell it killed the franchise yet again. And then, of course, we come to Halloween 2018, where we're all quite happy with how it's going. But, it's a roller coaster of a franchise. And this was a really fun episode to sort of get a look behind what is, to me, my favorite horror slasher of all time. What did you think?
I agree. I would have to say that's one of the perks I think about this series is the fact that it doesn't cover just the first film, because there are documentaries out there that may do that. This actually goes the entire series, and it was fun. And I too quite laughed when the Rob Zombie remakes came up. That was quite humorous. But I really enjoyed it. And I know this was filming, they were in the process of filming Halloween Kills, but I still enjoyed that they also brought in that creative team to also talk about it. So I think it was a really great time to get to see just from beginning to end, or current state, with past, present, and I guess future in a sense. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Our next episode, which is with the legendary Tony Todd, and that's Candyman. I just thought this was so much fun. I love Clive Barker and just the story behind it. And I think just Tony Todd, and he's a legend. The whole bee stings part, watching that as a kid when this came out, or I wasn't a kid, I think I was a teenager, but I didn't realize that was real.
Yeah.
I think that's what's also great about these episodes too, is the fact that you are learning things that, again, you may not have realized when you first watched the film. What did you think about the Candyman episode?
Well, for Candyman as a whole, that first film and the most recent movie they're both amazing. But the first Candyman is one of, I think, the greatest horror films of all time. I think it's truly just phenomenal. And it puts you in a sense of such hysteria that I think not a lot of films are able to do effectively. So I think it's just one of the most brilliant movies ever made. And I think Nia DaCosta did a phenomenal job with her Candyman this year. They're a great set. This episode, again, was really fun. For me, I preferred the Halloween episode and the Chucky episode, which we're going to get to now in a second. But I still thought this was really interesting because, again, look, I love going behind the scenes. I love going behind the monster. And I think Candyman, as a horror icon, has a lot of real world trauma behind him that makes him so terrifying when you do see him on screen. And all of the filmmakers who've done it effectively, basically the first movie and the most recent one, were able to put that across very, very well. And they're just such artful films, which you would never see in the 90s, but be like a really tasteful, highbrow, artful horror movie. They were there. You had The Silence of the Lambs. You had Wes Craven's New Nightmare. You had Scream. But they were few and far between. And I think Candyman stands out from the pack now, like 20, almost 30 years later. 30
the
years
social commentary is just fantastic. And so, I really enjoyed that. I will also agree with this next one. Chucky was one of not my favorites. Well, it's not my favorite. It is still one of my favorites. Because one, obviously we have the current Chucky TV series, but I love Don Mancini and I love seeing him talk about basically his project, his baby, and how he's been with it, because you see so many same thing, which is unfortunate for things like Halloween or say Nightmare on Elm Street, where the creator has not been there for every step of the way. And so just to see everything behind the series of Chucky or the series of Child's Play films and how it's progressed is incredible. And the fact that he's had the story in mind, but then also just the like how they made the dolls and the animatronics. The puppeteering.
Well, what I love about Don Mancini, just as a creator, is with what you said about Halloween. Like John Carpenter was supposed to come back from Halloween 2, and then he never did. And there was deals for him for like Halloween 4 and H2O, and he never wanted to come back, and he never did. It's the same with Wes Craven. There's an amazing documentary about A Nightmare on Elm Street. If you watch the episode and you want to go further, it's called Never Sleep Again. You can find it on YouTube. It's amazing. But I'll never forget this specific part about him. It's when they're talking about Freddy's Dead, by far the worst of the franchise, one of the worst films ever made. And he said, like, he was driving in Los Angeles in Hollywood and he saw like a bus drive by him, and it was Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. And he thought, God, I guess they finally milked it for all they could. And that's just so sad, because when you see people create these amazing things, then they step away from them because corporate greed, in a way, wanted to turn them into something more than what they were supposed to be. It kind of breaks your soul in a way when you look at their creative process, and how Wes Craven also came back here or there. He was involved with 3 a little bit, and then he wasn't, and he was completely not involved with 2, and it was just really sad about how it progressed. And the same with Halloween. I think with Don Mancini, this guy was someone who was passionate about his creation every single step of the way, and that's very rare to see in horror. Like we see how the original, like Sean Cunningham, sort of stepped away from like Friday the 13th, like in a way. Although that series never had a strong creative backbone, to be fair. So I knew it could sort of take up the mantle. It's not like Freddy and Michael, where there's a true thing there. But Chucky, what I think makes it okay for directors to sort of come and go is because you have Don Mancini there, and he kind of knows what Chucky is. He gets the comedy, he gets the kills, he gets just this sheer outlandishness of it. And once they start to embrace that, that's when Chucky becomes his best. That's why I think this new Chucky show is probably my favorite thing the franchise has ever done. Now, look, I'll wait until the final episode, and maybe if we get a season 2, that changes. But season 1 so far, it's up there with Bride of Chucky for me, and how just great it is.
It's over the top. It's camp. It's so good. But basically, I really like it. Don Mancini is amazing, and I think that the fact that he's been with the series the entire time except for that film we don't talk about. I think it's great, and it's rare to have that continuity that he has had from the very first Child's Play to the final movie to now the series. So
yeah, I think my favorite, what I love about this episode in particular is that you really get a sense of him as a passionate creator and producer, and I think he truly has proven himself as someone who well, look, if he has an idea for something, he's going to go with it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but he still goes for it. He doesn't just sort of cower behind, I got to keep up the reputation. No, he did Seed of Chucky. Whether you like it or not, he did it. He did Cult of Chucky. And whether you like it or not, he still did it. And it was really interesting, even if it wasn't all that great. It was still really interesting and bold, which is something that's rare in horror. So I like that he's bold, and I loved getting a sense of him in this episode. It was one of the most interesting parts about this entire 6-part show that Shudder has done.
Yeah, I agree. So the next episode would be my favorite, I will say. I'm just telling you right now. And that's that actually will come out this Wednesday. So we won't give too much about it, but it's about Nightmare on Elm Street. And I just love the fact that they did have interviews, or I would say historical interviews with Wes Craven, which that just warms my heart anytime that man is on the screen. Also the cast. And I just love how they also delved into how Freddy himself became more than just the movie and became this pop culture icon that everybody loved. So I really enjoyed this episode. And that's mainly because I love Nightmare on Elm Street. Even the bad ones, I still watch all of them. Even the one you hate, Ben, Freddy's dead. But I do love that we still, I loved just seeing the interviews and the passion, though, when it came to the first, the third, and the seventh. So this was
those are my favorites of the franchise.
Yeah.
And I think whenever Wes Craven's involved, he's the only one who truly understands Freddy, I think. Because you're right. Like, again, if you're interested in finding out more about this franchise, 4-hour documentary that flies by in the blink of an eye. I'd Never Sleep Again. Really, really amazing. And I think it was when Reagan said, he said something about Freddy Krueger. And like, he was like something out of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And people were like, you know, like the creators, the guy at New Line, whose name I forget right now, which is so like Bob Shea. And they were like, oh my God, this is more than just like these movies. And it was. Freddy became something that outside of horror, I think if you said A Nightmare on Elm Street, people would kind of get what you say. But if you said Freddy Krueger, everyone knows what you mean, because it's not about a movie, it's about the icon and how you create that icon. That
is so true. Yeah, it was. Yeah. If you don't have 4 hours, because I know Ben keeps plugging that, you should still watch this episode of Behind the Monsters. It is my personal favorite because it is just, I love Freddy. I love the movies. I love him as the icon, and I love Robert Englund. I think he's so great, and he's really, really embraced it. So yes, this was a good one. The next one is probably, I'm going to say this was maybe your least favorite, because this is your least favorite series in horror, and that is Friday the 13th.
It's just so boring. What can I say? There's just nothing to these movies that excites me whatsoever. I like the idea of a camp slasher, like not like a camp slasher, like goofy. I mean, like summer camp slasher, but I don't think it's ever been done in a way. Even Fear Street 1978, I thought was a tad disappointing. And I've never really found anything in the Friday the 13th movies that's particularly made me really, really passionate. But look, I think this episode was still really fun because, look, I think these films have kind of cemented their place in horror by, in a way, cheapening the slasher genre. And I think destroying its reputation like a small bit, because that's what everyone, because Friday the 13th was so successful. Nobody really copied Halloween. Everyone really copied Friday the 13th because it did it for really cheap, really quick. And it was more blood, less sort of thought to the movie than with Halloween. And no,
That's true.
that changed with Nightmare on Elm Street, but then Nightmare on Elm Street became a sequel making machine.
Yeah.
And with Friday the 13th, that was kind of always the goal, just money, money, money.
Mhm.
But this episode was still quite interesting. I will say that, because look, I am fair. Just because I don't like the movies doesn't mean I can't like this episode, because I enjoyed almost all these episodes. No, I enjoyed all these episodes.
I did too.
Like,
I loved all these episodes. I really did. I think that's just the very fascinating thing, because you get to find these things that, again, even if you've been out there doing deep dives, you may not know some of the things that they're going to discuss. And again, I always love the fact when they're bringing, people who are involved with the projects. I think that's very important. Or they have past interviews, that they're showing. I really, really enjoy that. I still love, I honestly love all these series. So I really enjoyed all these. But I mean, with Friday the 13th, I don't know if it's as, has as much depth in terms of, the other series. So I get it. I totally do. But it was super fun just learning about it. This last one too, this will be their final episode, which I'm curious just to know if it changed your opinion on the film, since you didn't like it. Oh, all right, well, that answered that. It's Hellraiser, and it's really about also the icon that is Pinhead, and the creation that Clive Barker created. And then I personally, when it came out, it is still, I mean, you look at it, it's a movie about taboo and just, pain, pleasure, and all. I loved it, but I also love Hellraiser. So, and I've never actually really seen a lot of interviews with Clive Barker. And so it was very interesting to have them, have these previous interviews and to tie that into, again, I love the guests that they bring on the show. I really do. You see some Shudder personalities on there, which I am so happy to see that the Boulay brothers were on there. They cracked me up. They are love them to death. So I love the episode, but I'm glad you enjoyed the series. Sorry it didn't make you enjoy Hellraiser anymore, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Look, I haven't watched, I'll be completely honest, I haven't watched all the Hellraiser movies because I don't want to do it to myself, but I am doing it soon because...
And that's more than I would say I've done. First four. I've seen past first four, but I'm going to tell you, you should probably stop at the first four.
Nope, I'm not going to do it because I'm a man of my word and I said I'd do it. And even though I know that most of the scripts, by the time they'd gotten to like 9 or 10 or however many they did, that they were just detective scripts that they put Pinhead into. And I know that they've done that. But look, I now have access to all these movies, so I will watch them. Pinhead is really interesting, I think, as a character. I think the movies he's been put in, at least the ones that I've seen, have just been uninteresting with some fun parts to them. I don't think I like the woman in the first movie was a really interesting character. I thought she was great. Julia. Even though there was never really any sort of explanation as to why she hated her husband so much or why she was attracted to that man so much or why or whatever, it was still, I think she was an amazing character. I think the final girl was disappointing because I thought she was really amazing. She was barely in the movie, Yutaka. She was barely in the movie. And then all of a sudden, where she's our main character after being missing for an hour. Like that, look.
Have you seen Hellraiser 2 yet?
I haven't seen Hellraiser 2 yet, no.
Okay. Watch Hellraiser 2. That's actually a really great one too. And Julia is in it, but so is Kirsty.
Oh, that's
it. Literally takes place right after the first movie. It's
when did they go to PVOD again? Was it after 4 or?
I believe so. Yes. I'm trying to think. I know 4 came out in theaters. I don't think the 5th one did, because that's when everything kind of changed for the series. But, again, I think as a whole, I think what Shudder put together was just it's just fantastic. I hope we get more because there's so many other slashers. Actually, there's so many horror franchises out there or icons that they could really do a good deep dive in. Maybe even some, I don't know, say Scream,
Texas Chainsaw, Evil Dead.
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, Evil Dead would be good. You know what?
Great.
Even I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes, because they made 3 of those movies
and a series.
I've seen them on the series. Also, Prom Night, which I would say is probably the worst horror remake I've ever seen. Yeah, I would. I think that film is. When I watched it, I gave up my Saturday night. That was the movie I chose to watch. This was back in like 2019. I'm still not fucking over it. It ruined my Saturday night. I was furious. I had a Saturday night. I could have done anything I wanted. I chose to watch Prom Night with my uncle. We both hated it. Anywho, Shudder, if you could destroy that the way that you did the Rob Zombie remakes, I think we'd all be very happy.
Yes, please. So what both Ben and I are saying is you should really check out the series. Right now, episodes 1 and 3 are out. These are released on the Wednesdays, and we still have 3 more episodes to go. And fingers crossed that there is a sequel.
Yes.
Season 2, because I would like to see more of these fun deep dives. And keep with the Shudder personalities. I thought that was just a very nice touch. But yeah, that's our review. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed Ben tearing down some films that I liked. But it happens. So go ahead and as George would say, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified every time we put out a video, which is very haphazard like. It happens. We're still new. And yeah, hope you guys had a good time. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time.